was the 8th change of a president in 10 years. It has become a kind of a folkloric event to change presidents in this country. Congress found out that they, in fact, have the power. That they have the power to send away presidents if they just have enough votes to do so, which is 87 out of 130. And people have to work day and night to survive. They work mostly in those petty trades and small businesses that they own or where they work. They have no time to go to the streets, because every day they go to the street, there is no income.
Welcome to FO Talks. With me is Eric Herz. He's a consultant based in Peru. And today we will talk about the political storm that has rocked the South American country. Eric, thank you again for speaking to Fair Observer. Very quickly, can you tell our viewers what is going on in Peru?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. We had recently, last week, a new change in the president of the country. It was the 8th change of a president in 10 years. It has become a kind of a folkloric event to change presidents in this country. Because the president that has been changed was already an interim president who was replacing a vice president who was replacing a president that is now in prison because he attempted a coup d'etat. It has to do a lot with politics. I would say that since 2016, the culture of politics changed a bit. From the year 2000, when Fujimori, the autocratic president Fujimori, fell down and democracy was reinstalled, until 2016, we always had presidents that were able to conclude that term, even if they were becoming, during that term, very unpopular. And they all were based on minorities in Congress. So they knew how to negotiate with Congress in order to get laws adopted, etc. But in 2016, this changed because there was a government, a president, that was voted with a couple of thousands votes of difference with the number 2, which was the daughter of the autocratic president Fujimori, Keiko Fujimori. I think the difference in votes was somewhere between 20,000 and 40,000, which is not much. But at the same time, because of the districts that the party of Fujimori won, Fujimori had a majority in Congress. So there was a lot of tension and friction going on between the government and its allies and Fujimori, which led to the first impeachment of a president after President Fujimori himself was impeached around 2000. And from then on, Congress found out that they, in fact, have the power. That they have the power to send away presidents if they just have enough votes to do so, which is 87 out of 130 seats in Congress, because until this year, there was only a one-chamber Congress.
Right. That's really fascinating. I want to come to the Congress and the Constitution later, but very quickly, can you just tell us who is Peru's interim president, the current interim president, Jose Maria Balcazar, and why was the previous interim president, Jose Herri, removed?
Yeah. The previous president, who was 4 months in power, by the way, ended up in some scandals. I would say, for Peruvian circumstances, even minor scandals. He had some contacts with Chinese lobbyists. So he tried to do so incognito. which of course raises a lot of suspicion because China is one of the main investors in this country and also the main buyer of the export produce of Peru. And on the other hand, he also received some ladies visiting him in the palace. And after they visited him, sometimes late at night and for many hours, they got government jobs.
Right.
And you would say, since in April we have new elections, let the man continue because this is not really, I would say, the worst corruption scandals or nepotism scandals you have seen in Peru. But it became a kind of a political issue because of these elections. Parties wanted to show to the population that they are hard on fraud and corruption. And so you had a small majority in Congress that wanted to send Kerry away, which they did with a trick that is not really constitutional. They sent him away as if he were still the chair of Congress. And for that, you only need a simple majority because they did not have the 87 votes to send him away as president. Still, they sent him away. And then there were like 4 candidates to follow him up, to succeed him. And surprisingly, one of the most unlikely candidates won. Kerry was youngest president of the Republic, and now they voted for the oldest one, a guy who was 83 years old, who is a left wing, and who also was involved in many scandals. He was sent away as a judge because he didn't do a good job as a judge. Then he was sent away as the chair of the board of lawyers in a northern city of Peru because he was suspected of embezzling the money of that board. And he has some funny ideas about sexuality of underage girls. Nonetheless, they voted for this guy because the political parties that supported him think that they can somehow take advantage of supporting such a weak and unlikely president. And the leader of his political party, to which he belonged a long time, he is at large because there's a detention order against him. And he is also a candidate for president. He is a communist who was trained in Cuba. So, and he, of course, wants to remain out of the hands of police. So you had like 2-3 political parties that supported this candidate because they want influence on the government. They see the government as a kind of a treasure that they want to have hands on. And you had this left-wing party that wants to protect its leader against detention.
Right. Well, Eric, the way you're explaining things in Peru, it almost seems like the president is just a nominal figure. I mean, it's a notional figure. They really don't have much power, and everything is. I mean, Congress is the one with all the cards. Tell us more. Is Congress the most powerful body in Peru?
Since 2016, I think you could say this. Even though the president commands the government, the ministries, etc., the political parties now, they want their share in power, and which means that indeed Congress is having the power, but within Congress there is no unity. The unity changes. There are a kind of deals among parties that ideologically are even, I would say, adversaries. You have like center parties, especially some center parties that always change their allies between left and right. And they are the main power brokers in this country.
Okay, so what happens when there are elections in April now? A
Yeah.
new president is going to be elected, but given how powerful Congress is, does it even matter?
That is hard to say, because although Peruvians themselves are very pessimistic and critical towards politicians, be it president, be it ministers, or be it members of Congress, there were some changes implemented that will now for the first time be executed during these elections. Because look at it, the point is that you have always those 2 rounds of elections. And that means that anybody can become president, because anybody can go to the second round. Because there are, for instance, right now participating 39 political parties and 36 candidates. And those political parties are not like real political parties. They are like organized around these candidates. Some of them are lobbies, even some criminal lobbies. Others do have political or business interests. And then they pick somebody who they think could become a candidate. And with so many parties and candidates, everybody has a chance. So the ones who are now leading the opinion polls are a right-wing former mayor of Lima, who is like the Andean Trump, and the daughter of Fujimori again. And they have not more than 10%. And then we didn't even have the debates on television taking place yet, which will change the opinion, because more than 1/3 of the electorate has not made a choice yet, which is also very difficult. So what are the changes that could have a positive influence? One of them is that right now a political party can only be represented in Congress if they achieve more than 5% of the valid votes. And if they have at least 7 elected representatives in more than one district. Only then they can be represented in Congress. So somehow there will be now a filter that will reduce the number of political parties in Congress, which is already good. And then you might also hope that the candidates have learned a bit from the past, and that they will be better at negotiating with Congress, having a kind of alliances within Congress. Broadly speaking, the country is divided in quite a large right-wing section. The population is quite conservative, so like 40% is right-wing, some 25% is left-wing, and then you have the center.
Eric, very quickly before you break it down further, can you tell us how this distribution is in terms of urban and rural? Is the rural population more right-wing? Is it the urban population which is more right-wing?
Well, the rural population, yes, may be a bit more left-wing, I would say, more traditional in the sense that they feel like oppressed, but only 20% of the population is rural. And then you have the southern part of the country, which would vote for a disruptive candidate, because the South, like I would say, the 200 years of existence of the Republic, the South always felt a bit left behind on purpose by Lima and the North. And that is very strong, and they tend to vote for disruptive candidates. But the disruptive candidate can either be left-wing or even right-wing. They were the ones that helped Fujimori win when he became the president of this country, but they were also the ones that helped Castillo, a chaotic left-wing president, to become president of the country. So that is broadly speaking. So and left-wing, you have them everywhere in a minority at least, and they become more powerful if the South supports a left-wing candidate. Right-wing, you have them mainly in the cities.
Right.
It's also that the country is conservative because there is a kind of culture here of small entrepreneurship. 70% of the population lives in the informal sector, and many of them see themselves as informal, but as small entrepreneurs. And then, of course, the business elite and the SMEs, they are by definition right-wing because they want to protect their privileges.
Right, Eric, there's something really interesting also happening apart from 8 presidents in a decade, and that is what's going to happen in April 2026. Of course, there's a presidential election in Peru, but the country is also returning to a bicameral legislature. That means there's going to be a Senate again. Why is this happening now? Why wasn't there a Senate earlier?
Yeah. Well, the Fujimori, when he became president in 1990, he felt the same troubles with Congress that presidents feel nowadays. So he had a kind of an coup d'etat, the self-coup d'etat, they called it, autogolpe. And he changed the constitution with a lot of help of the population, because they also wanted Fujimori to fulfill his job, which was ending a deep economic crisis with various terrorist organizations terrorizing the population. They wanted him to be able to act. And he was a populist, so he was able to change the constitution, and there they abolished the Senate, so that they had only one chamber. Because if you have one chamber, you can take decisions much more rapidly.
Right.
The reason why you now have a Senate is a bit difficult to analyze. People in Peru are always suspicious of politicians, always critical. So they think that the Senate is a means for the politicians to remain involved, so that there are more jobs for politicians. That's what people think. It could also improve the decisions made by Congress, because if you can decide so rapidly, you can also take the wrong decisions very rapidly and easily. And decisions were mostly taken out of reasons of self-interest. And they think maybe that by having a Senate with some elderly politicians being at the Senate that have to look again at these laws that are adopted in the House of Representatives, that decisions would be of a higher quality.
Right. Well, interestingly, public approval for Congress has been abysmally low for years in Peru. And that's why, I mean, we've had multiple presidents removed. Does that happen with Congress as well? Are lawmakers removed as quickly as the presidents have been removed?
No. So far, if Congress would not give a vote of confidence to a cabinet of ministers twice, then or if there would be a vote of confidence rejected twice, then the president can send away Congress. And there was indeed one interim president who tricked Congress and sent Congress away so that he could govern 1 year without Congress because new elections had to be organized. But this only happened once because it's like a cat and mouse game always, you see, to make sure that Congress is not sent away, because for these people, many of them earn quite a good salary, earn better in Congress than they would earn outside Congress. And they don't want to give up their jobs. And others are there because they have ties with powerful groups within their districts, sometimes criminal groups, like illegal gold mining, wood logging in the Amazon region, etc. So they are there and get money from them in order to change laws, which they did. They make it easier for illegal gold mining to be qualified as legal, etc. So there are so many interests there that nobody really, there is not much incentive to have ethical considerations prevail. Let me put it that way.
Right.
Also, because so far, members of Congress, since this president sent away Congress, it was not allowed for members of Congress to be re-elected. That makes them even more greedy, I would say, rather than less greedy, because they know they have only one term. And this is also changed right now, which I think is good, because now it's the voters who decide if a member of Congress will stay or go away.
I mean, that makes sense. That's how democracy should work. I mean,
Exactly.
that's what you vote for. So Eric, you've lived in Peru for almost 2 decades now. Do you see that the country can find a way to become more easily governable? And the reason I'm asking this is, given how much turmoil there has been regards to the president in Peru, the Congress, and everything now basically coming back together in 2026 with the bicameral legislature, what does the country need to do to become politically stable?
Yeah, very good that you say politically stable, because economically the country remained quite stable.
Right,
and it's funny.
That's you brought that up the last time we spoke. You categorically differentiated how the two do not really get impacted when there is political turmoil in the country, that the economic columns are in place.
Yes, indeed. And it's funny, just to remind you, I heard some Chilean journalists talking about the late changing government here. And they said that the real president of this country is the president of the central bank. And the central bank is really independent here. So they manage the currency very well. They manage inflation very well. Export of, the commodity prices are booming. So economically, the country is not affected right now, but politically it is, and indirectly the economy also, because one of the better known economists in the country lately said that the economic growth could be double of what it is right now. It could be between 6 and 7% per year if we would also have a stable government that would work on infrastructure, that would combat crime in an effective way. And honestly, it will be difficult. It will be difficult because we also see here what we see in many Latin American countries, that organized crime is entering into politics. And that is a very destabilizing factor that is very difficult to combat. So we have to hope that the next president and the next members of parliament will come to their senses. That's the only hope I have. And also the hope that we still can have is that there will be less political parties in Congress, that the fact that you have a Senate will improve the quality of the decisions, but it is just hope, not more than that.
Right. Well, can you give us a feel of how ordinary Peruvians are feeling about so many presidents being changed, being replaced, and not just that, but also the country returning to a bicameral legislature?
Yeah, I think most of the population, they feel that the bicameral legislation or having a Senate is just a way to uh, to subsidize more corrupt politicians, because you need more politicians for this. That's the way they see it. About the constant change of presidents, they feel ashamed about it. And they blame both the presidents, by the way, and Congress. But they are, in fact, also dissatisfied in general. And they're dissatisfied with the level of service that the state offers them, the healthcare, education, the lack of good infrastructure. They are dissatisfied in general. Also, crime is rising a lot here in this country, and especially the poor majority is affected by it, because extortion takes place in the poorer neighborhoods of the cities. They're extorting, for instance, a lot of bus drivers, and these are like vans and private buses on which the poorer people depend when they have to go from home to work, and vice versa. So it all adds to the dissatisfaction that is already there. But it never exploded, because the country is maybe just wealthy enough to make sure that the dissatisfaction is not really exploding, and people have to work day and night to survive. They work mostly in those petty trades and small businesses that they own, or where they work. They have no time to go to the streets, because every day they go to the street, there is no income.
Brilliant. Eric, as always, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. And every time you bring insights that only somebody who's lived in Peru, who walks in Lima can bring us. So thank you again for speaking to Fair Observer.
No, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Rohan.
Same here, Eric.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.